let me introduce you to the structure of social anxiety disorder and walk you through a common example of how it develops. Now, as you can see here in the center, the core of social anxiety consists of a bunch of limiting negative beliefs which cause us to have some common fears that you can see on the outside of the circle. Now, having these fears because you're always trying to serve your subconscious mind to give you anxiety in order to protect you from experiencing these things that you fear. Now, the most common places where these beliefs have been formed are in your early childhood, age 0 to 12, and especially age 0 to 6. And that was due to the repetitive negative experiences you had. And further, these beliefs have been formed through, life traumas, and we call that significant emotional events. To illustrate this, let's take our example of Joe again. He's 25 years old, and he's really good at producing social anxiety. And he considers himself to have a social anxiety disorder. The repetitive negative experiences that Joe had as he was growing up were that his parents were always comparing him to his older brother, and he never matched up. His brother always outperformed him in just about everything, and his brother was his parents' favorite. On top of that, his parents were very critical, judgmental, and perfectionistic. This caused Joe to make some decisions that resulted in him holding the negative core belief, I'm not good enough, and I must be perfect to be accepted or loved. These beliefs caused his self-esteem to be pretty low, and so he was more vulnerable to developing social anxiety. Now, as Joe was more vulnerable, he, at 12 years old, experienced a traumatic experience. The initial significant emotional event that kick-started his social anxiety. Joe had to read out loud in front of the class, and as he was feeling a bit insecure doing that, he stuttered, and then people laughed at him, and as a result he felt incredibly ashamed and embarrassed. Joe's subconscious here learned a bunch of new beliefs in order to keep him safe from experiencing those painful emotions again. It formed the beliefs that it's not safe to be the center of attention and that people are mean. And naturally, Joe had become afraid of becoming embarrassed or ashamed again. As a result of all this, Joe started to feel socially anxious. He knew he wasn't safe in these situations. As his subconscious noticed Joe being anxious in certain social situations, it saw other situations where Joe could be protected by the anxiety. And so it started to link anxiety to other events that were similar in an attempt to help him. Now, as time passed, sometimes an event perceived by Joe's brain as similar happened to him. And so he got the same emotions back, the shame and the embarrassment, that he had initially felt when he was reading out loud in front of the class. And this created more significant emotional events, leading to a reinforcing of his existing negative limiting beliefs, and on top of that, a forming of new negative limiting beliefs in his model of the world. And of course, soon enough, Joe experienced anxiety in just about any situation where other people were involved. Plus, Joe had started to expect becoming anxious. Now, after dealing with social anxiety for a while, Joe started to believe that he was the problem. He began to identify himself with the social anxiety. He no longer saw himself as a person that has a challenge with social anxiety, but he started to see himself as a socially anxious person. He mistakenly started to think that he is the challenge, that there's something wrong with him. And as a result of this, he started to judge himself for being anxious. He started to see himself as a loser. He thought that he would never know what to say, that he would never be good enough, that he's boring, that he's weak, that he's insignificant, that he'll forever be anxious, and so on. But in actuality, there's nothing wrong with Joe, but he just acts and thinks that way because of the anxiety. But Joe didn't know this, so he started to have all these feelings about his situation. So he was really ashamed and embarrassed about himself for having anxiety, and so he started to hide from everyone. So often he feels sad and lonely because he's missing out on the fun, the relationships, the connections and the parties that he sees other people really enjoying, but that he is much too afraid of to participate in himself. Now, aside from this, he subconsciously started to build up all sorts of resistance to letting go of his social anxiety. Joe's subconscious started to believe that it's not safe to change, that he won't know who he'll be once he changes, that Joe won't know how to be normal without his anxiety, and that he will have no idea what to do and how to act, and that he will have no idea how to function as a quote-unquote normal person when he's no longer anxious. And since his subconscious mind is far more powerful than his conscious mind, all the things that he tries to do to get rid of his social anxiety are failing. So all the techniques and therapies and tools and tricks that he tries to get rid of his social anxiety either fail, don't work, or only work a tiny little bit for him. And as Joe has been in this anxious state for a long time now, the cells in his body have literally become addicted to the chemical of anxiety. Joe's now feeling helpless and hopeless about his situation, angry that he's in it, frustrated that he can't seem to change it, and feelings of depression have started to creep up more and more. So there you have it. Joe's in a pretty bad situation. And you might recognize your situation in that of Joe's. Now, of course, this is just an example, and there can be many variations on the theme. It can be many different beliefs and many reasons as to why your social anxiety started and why it developed. But the good news is that whatever beliefs you hold, or in whatever unique way your social anxiety started or developed, your social anxiety disorder can be fully resolved, as the structure tends to be the same for everyone. When we have a social anxiety disorder, we almost surely have a subconscious resistance to letting it go. On top of that, we have all sorts of feelings and emotions about our situation, and quite possibly some judgments about ourselves for having it. Now, aside from that, or in conjunction with those feelings about our situation, we also have a lot of negative expectations and beliefs about our ability to be able to overcome it. We're thinking that nothing works for us, that we are a tough case, that EFT is bullshit, that there's something deeply wrong with us, and many other negative expectations. And since anxiety is the emotion that we experience most frequently, our cells have become addicted to the chemical of anxiety. So generally, social anxiety disorder isn't the easiest challenge to overcome. So I can understand that there are so many people telling you that you can only manage it at best. You'll forever have it. Because that's simply what they have witnessed. That's the best results they have seen, and so they want to protect you. But I'm here to bring you these insights from almost a decade of both my own journey and my work as a coach of working solely with social anxiety disorder sufferers. And I can confidently state that you can overcome your social anxiety disorder fully and completely. I've done it, my clients have done it, and you can do the same. In the last video, I'm going to introduce you to the main power tool that we use to tackle social anxiety disorder forever. You'll get a full view of every single step we take to break down the structure of social anxiety disorder and unlock your natural confidence, so you can feel calm, relaxed, and at ease in all social situations. See you soon.